we're so conditioned to live on autopilot and live out the habits that we've been living out last week, last year. And it wasn't until I woke up to that day when I came to the realization that I was believing I wasn't going to heal, that
Yeah.
I thought, oh my gosh, wow, okay. So I've been sleepwalking through life with living out these automatic patterns. And until you're really aware
Yeah.
of what you believe, you can't change anything. You have
Yeah.
to wake up to what you're believing.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, it is my honor to welcome our guests and to thank them for coming because I know they're coming with a couple of things I personally really, truly do consider it very expensive, and that is time. I've learned to love time. I've learned to respect time. And if you don't, it'll tell me much about how you treat your own self. And so I want to thank Heidi for coming and spending some of this quality stuff with us, that her time. The other is the journey. Powerful creator today. It created her, it deposited some things into her that we would love access to. For what reason? So that you and I can become better human spirits while we're here. What are those? Wisdom, knowledge, insights. So we want to thank her because in order for us to share, for her to share that, she must become vulnerable. And so we want to honor her, thank her, and pay our respects. Heidi, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I'm thrilled to be here. Really excited to be here.
It's an honor to have you. As I said, I don't believe there's a synchronicity to life. And I believe someone needs your wisdom and your insights that you gained from your journey. And that's why you're here. As you've listened to the podcast and you heard, my custom here is to ask, concerning that second office. I tell people the journey comes with two things: to introduce us to ourselves. We don't know who we are, and because we listen to whatever people tell us that we are. And the other aspect of the journey is to guide us to our assignment that we have on this planet. My question to you, Heidi, is how do you serve mankind?
My goal and the reason I feel like I'm here is to help people connect with themselves. Because to me, and from what all I've gone through, that feels like the nugget that was missing from my life and is missing from so much of humanity. Because if we can connect with ourselves at such a deep level where we love and accept and give compassion to ourselves, then we connect so much deeper with each other. We see other people's vulnerabilities and we can give compassion because we've seen it and felt it in ourselves. And I look around at how disconnected we are from ourselves. And that is kind of the mirror of our world. We're disconnected from each other. We're, living out the narratives that we've been so conditioned to live and believe, those stories. And my goal is to help people realize the power that lies within each of us. And when we connect and give acceptance to ourselves and be really vulnerable with ourselves, which is really hard, and I think that's kind of partly at the root of a lot of the pain that we see acted out in our world, then we can give that to other people. So it's meeting that vulnerability, meeting what we find with acceptance, giving compassion to it, realizing that, we're human, we're going to make a lot of mistakes and it's okay. And that's changed all of my relationships too. I can see exactly why, my husband is doing what he's doing, that can be a trigger for me, but also I see, okay, wait, how do I want to respond to that? And how can I be the best person that I can be? How can I live for my highest good and the highest good of all? That's a morning intention every day. And I believe if I can help one person connect more deeply with themselves, then that's a win. Because I feel like we need to connect and connection with our natural world. We're so disconnected from nature and animals that are factory farmed in the United States, and just a lot of the suffering because we're dealing with our own stuff and we're projecting that. So connection, finding that deep part of you that's your ally, and realizing the power that you have when you tap into that and you live from that place. That's that's what I'm hoping to instill in other people and guide them. I'm not here to heal anybody. You have what you need to heal. I wanna help you get there with some of the strategies that I've used and the research backs up. Yeah,
Yeah, the you cannot heal unless you become vulnerable. It is
exactly.
one of the key principles in the process. Beginning to, and I know some people think I'm harsh, I'm beginning to see, since I've gone through my journey and I went through, and all of us, the first stable or the first pillar that one encounters on the journey, this is where we start, is self-love. You
Mhm.
have to remember who you are. Psychologists will call who we are subconscious being. A religion will call to that individual as the soul or the spirit of the man. And so when we came into this plane, we kind of forgot who we are. And that first pillar about love, and to love yourself, you must become vulnerable. You cannot love yourself until you do that. And I'm beginning to wonder out loud, since we're having this conversation, about someone that hasn't gone through the journey, Heidi. When they say to me they love me, my question is, how can that be when they haven't really truly loved them? So, because the principle is you have to experience it with you first to recognize, as Heidi said, recognize what it is. You have to be empathetic with you to understand what does that mean. You have to forgive you to understand what does that really mean and how deep that is. And I don't think that anyone that hasn't gone there is truly capable of loving anyone else. We have the natural stuff, the dopamine and all the chemicals that I think that everyone have access to, but that individual, Heidi, that has gone through that journey, that's a different type of stuff when they say, I love you. And so here we are. One of our customs, Heidi, is to go back. I shouldn't be ranting, but I was ranting, girl.
I
One of our
agree, I
customs,
think there's levels too,
yes,
levels of love.
I believe
Yeah,
so. Let's talk about that since we're ranting, since I am ranting. Let's talk
yeah.
about that because it is important that people understand that first pillar. It is a space by which you have to go deep into self to awaken and to see and deal with some of the traumas that we encounter as young individuals on this planet. And that pillar of love and falling in love with self, because we carry a lot of shame, Heidi. We carry a lot of guilt. We carry a lot of baggages that we have accumulated in our lifetime as we're coming to that place of awakening, if you will. Um, and I know I usually don't do it this way, but since we're here, let's investigate it a little. In your case, Heidi, how how did that manifest for you? That first pillar, if you will, of love. What did you see when you began to dig deep into your life, into your being, and what did you uncover as you were doing that as a young individual?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't a young individual when I really went deep. It was through my journey, and it was at age 52.
Still young girl.
Be Yes, yes, but I had all that conditioning, I had the guilt, I had the not enoughness, a lot of things from my life, but with my illnesses, I grew up with the adage, idle hands are the devil's work. So you've got to be productive, you've got to be efficient, you've got to be doing, doing, doing. So that was my life for decades. And then when I got sick, I resisted the 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 reality. that I was facing in terms of everything that I was losing. I was aware of everything I was losing, but I felt like if I admit and accept what's happening to my body and to my life, massive losses through that, then that's who I am. I'm a sick person. I'm defined as that. So I looked at the labels that I had worked so hard to achieve as who I was, as identity. It was and I had patients who had lost everything to chronic illness, the same diagnoses that I had, but I didn't know at the time. And I thought, "Ooh, no, that's not me. I'm an athlete, I'm a competitor, I'm this, that, or the other thing." So it was a very gradual process, and it came to a kind of a U-turn when I hit rock bottom in 2021. I didn't have anybody, I didn't have a diagnosis, a doctor, a path forward, and I was getting worse and worse, and I was terrified. And I had been searching for all these answers outside myself, and I knew the missing piece was me. And I asked myself the question of what I was believing about my ability to heal. And the answer that was the first truth was that I was believing I'm not going to heal and I'm going to continue to get worse. And that was a really raw, painful truth. But that was what opened the door to really make a vow to myself to believe in me and to believe in my body's ability to heal. Because if I don't believe I can heal, I'll never heal. Doesn't matter if I have the
Yeah.
best doctor in the world,
Yep.
I'm not gonna heal. And it's these stories. So that was the beginning, and then I started down this little road of acceptance that opened up so much because I realized that acceptance is nothing about accepting it as an identity, as a definition. Acceptance is there is so much here, and I need to give love and care to all of it. So it was this years long journey that's still unraveling, and it's exciting and I love it. And it's really looking at all the things that we've been conditioned is not who we are. It's so much deeper than that. And when we open the door to that acceptance, it calms our nervous system, it
Hmm.
creates safety, and it creates a space of healing and seeing hope and a way forward. So that's was kind of the beginning of the journey, and just doing things every day to give myself love and acceptance. And every time I make a mistake or a bad choice, that's an opportunity to give myself compassion and not,
Yeah.
change that inner dialogue to be loving and compassionate and a champion for me. And it changes everything.
Yeah.
But you can't,
Yeah.
yeah, you just, it's so thought I was kind of connected to myself because I was an athlete for so long and tuned in, and I worked holistically with patients and clients, but it was at such a surface level compared to what it
Hmm.
is now. It's like
Yeah.
imagining what the ice cream's gonna taste like without tasting it, and then you taste it
Yeah.
and it's like, "Wow, this is this is amazing. This is so different." Yeah.
Is nothing like going through it personally. So our approach tonight is the Star Wars approach. We started with Empire Strikes Back, and then we're going to head out into the beginning as we go. So here, let's go from the beginning because this is where we are formed, if you will, and we're going to come back to where you are right now. But we're going to go back to see how did you get to all of that. The first location that we hang out, as you know, is the family. In this little location here, we're going to hang out. We're going to learn there for 18 years or so, depending, but we're going to learn our communication skills. Our beliefs are going to be developed here. We're going to incur some type of traumas from that space right there. We are going to start developing our behaviors, our response to situations, our mindset is all of that stuff is going to be formed. Our perceptions are going to be developed based on data we're receiving from interaction with mom and dad, brothers and sisters, and all that stuff. What was your family unit like?
I had 2 older sisters, 4 and 6 years ahead of me. Had I had a really loving family. We didn't this was I was born in the '60s, so we didn't talk about emotions. We didn't talk about deep things. We There was love, but there were also kind of expectations of perfectionism that I really felt like I never could live up to. But at the same time, I knew I was loved, and I had a good childhood. I had a lot of friends, that we'd travel a lot. I don't remember anything particularly traumatic as I was growing up. I got along pretty well with my oldest sister, my middle sister, and I. We would fight a lot. But as we got to be adults, we repaired that and actually had a good relationship. But we yeah, I felt like we were pretty, we were exposed to a lot of cultural things, and when I went to kind of the reaction to kind of the expectations of perfection and that I couldn't meet was to be a little bit of a rebel. So I was
Let
quite
me, let me,
rebellious. Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, Heidi. Let me ask you a question.
yeah.
Where did that come from? Expectation. Where did you pick it up from?
My parents and then my sisters were pretty high achievers.
Hmm.
So they were in the top of their class. They were really good in sports. So and my mom was very um on we had to look very together when we would be in public and things like that. And I see where she got it. And my dad, he had trauma when he was a kid, and he's 88, and he's still a perfectionist with the things that he's doing. And I think I think the line can be kind of blurred between perfectionism and just wanting to do the best job that you can. It's just a step up. Are the standards ever going to be reachable? When are you happy with what you're achieving? So I definitely later in life, kind of after in grad school, I had that perfectionism. I got a 1B through grad school, and I was very upset about it. And my advisor said, "I'm glad you got a B because you're being ridiculous." But I think that feeling of not enough played out in a lot of energy toward compensating for it. So I think it was feeling like I'm the black sheep, I'm the troublemaker, I don't get the best grades because I don't really apply myself. I'm kind of in a group of friends where we like to have fun, and I did have fun. But I also think that was a reaction to, well, why bother? Because I'm not gonna live up to these expectations.
Yeah. I wanted
Yeah.
to see where the origin story of that. And here you are, as I mentioned earlier, our mindset limitation begins to develop here in this location where we are with our family because we have those expectations, but is more importantly the language behind the expectations, that language coming from the parents, those adults, and then the internal language coming from us as we are internally speaking to ourselves, and they're not aware of what we are saying, but we are. And we are forming those bonds with those limitations as we are failing with their expectation and the language that they use to describe call us as we are not meeting those things. And so you have all of this beautiful cauldron, if you will, of words being and emotions and energy being tossed and cooked. And this young individual is in the midst of that beautiful pot, if you will. So as you're moving, Heidi, what was your communication skills with outside of home? How did you present self when dealing with others?
Think I didn't know who I was. And definitely feel like I would wear a mask to belong. I think I had some close friends that I could be myself, but in the larger groups, I would wear a mask and, yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Survival
think
mode.
it was such
Yeah.
a hard time. It's such a hard, like, how do you figure out who you are and what you wanna do for your life? And I love, you know, kind of the party scene, Ken. I got kicked out of 2 out of 3 high schools. Um, it wasn't anything that would be considered terrible now, but I was trying to figure out who I was, but not really, but kind of, I didn't have any mentor. I didn't have any adult that I felt like I could learn from, or, would take me under their wing and say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" I didn't have any direction. I decided on my college, my major junior winter term of junior year. I switched so many times. So I think communication was probably not that great. I didn't really think a lot about it, but I was trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do, and yeah, I
What field
wasn't
of
very
study did you pick
into
when you
that.
decided to go to college? Why did you pick that particular field, Heidi?
Going into college or coming
Yeah,
out of college?
going in.
Which one? Going
Going
in.
in. What was it that solidified in your being that made you say, this is the route that I'm going to go? What was the circumstances that brought that about?
I was gonna be an international business major because my grandfather was in business and he would fly all over the world for
Yeah,
business, and I
yeah,
loved travel, and I
yeah.
thought, and he was very well off, and I thought, "I'm gonna do that," until I got a D in accounting, and I took economics, and I was like, "This is terrible. I don't wanna do this. This is so boring." So then I did psychology, but we had to deprive rats of water, and I had a hard time with that. So I would go and feed all the rats and give all the rats water because I didn't I didn't want our rat Laura to be the bottom of the class. So, so it was I just kind of was not finding, and it was a liberal arts school. So there were a lot of different things that I could choose. But I ended up with speech English, which is ironically communications. And that I decided on because I was terrified to speak in public, no, speak in front of people. And I wanted to get over that fear. And the only way that I could take a speech class is if I declared it as my major. So that was, and by then, I thought, okay, I'm really good at analytical. I think I'll go into law, and you'll need to be able to speak and write in order to be an attorney, and part of that was because I think I would do well at the LSATs. So I was I didn't have a lot of firm groundedness of career at that age.
So you made mention when I said to you about college, and you said, "What do you mean about leaving?" So what did you, what, what field of study did you graduate with? Let me put it that way.
It was called speech English, so it was basically communications.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of English classes and a lot of speech classes, and then I had also done a lot of other things within the context of a liberal arts degree. So it was a BA in basically kind of communications. Yeah.
And because we are following at this point, the program is that we go to high school, we come out, we go to college, we come out, we go profession, we come out, we meet our mate, we have the house and a white picket fence, the dog, don't forget the dog. And then they allow us 2-week vacation per year. And so we're following
Mhm.
this program. So when you came out of school and college and you have that degree, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, as they say, you're going to change the world. Where did you end up?
I was a ski bum in Colorado. Move I had several friends from college. We had 6 weeks off for our winter break, and I had a friend who lived in Vail. So my senior year, I spent my Christmas break in Vail and I worked on the mountain and I skied and I met a guy there. And so I ended up uh, moving to Boulder after I graduated and then moved up to Vail for that season. And it was awesome. I mean, I skied every day. And then I worked at a ranch in Wyoming for a summer after that. I traveled a lot, Grand Canyon, New Mexico, a lot of just camping and traveling. And then I lived in New Hampshire. I did a bunch of service jobs there. So I moved around a lot, 9 places in the 2 years after college. And I really felt like I needed that to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And I ended up taking a nutrition class and an environmental geology class, and I loved nutrition. And that's what I went for grad school, but I actually didn't do that. I did prerequisites for that and for occupational therapy because I met a woman who I was back in Colorado who her mom and sister were occupational therapists and she said, "You got to try this." So she changed my life
Yeah.
by just saying, "Hey, have you thought about this?" So I did prereqs for both and I decided on OT. So that felt good. And when I finally had that, that grounding of,
Hmm.
yes, this is what I want to do. It was so, school was to learn and grades
Yeah.
were just a byproduct. It was a completely different equation than going to college where I was trying to get grades and had no idea what I wanted to do. So it was yeah, it was quite a journey.
It's a beautiful journey, I think. I always tell people to travel because in those travelings, Heidi, you had quite a few of those solitary moments. And in those solitary moments is when we are able to tap into the subconscious being because we are there by ourselves, nature, amongst nature, one of the greatest teachers around. And Boulder is one of my favorite places on this planet anyway. I just love that place.
Mhm.
And solitude is a great place. That is how we began to tap into this subconscious being when we are in that space of solitude. That's why a lot of people are afraid to go there because it causes you to look in. As you are doing that, Heidi, and because I know being out there and all those, the Grand Canyon and all those things and watching the power of nature and seeing the smallness of self of a human being in the midst of all of that. And yet feeling absolutely connected to it, all of that powerful stuff you're drinking up as an individual. So when you moved into this aspect of getting familiar and getting grounded, and that lady mentioned that, and it changed your life. When you were there in that class and you said it changed your life, you came to learn and you understood why, the why behind what we do in school, and you saw that grade is just the byproduct of. When you were there and in that space, how was she doing? How was Heidi doing? She's getting all of this data. She has gained some beautiful insights outside of school. How was she, that subconscious being, how was she adapting to all of this? What was she doing at that point?
Well, that's a good question. I think for probably there was one other time where I believed in myself, and that was when I just went to Colorado to go to school when I didn't know anybody, I didn't have any place to live. And I think as I was going through grad school, I was beginning to, and I'm 30 by now. And I think I was really beginning to feel like I'm home.
Hmm.
I felt like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And I'm really excited about it. And I had an amazing program and amazing advisors. I never thought as I was going through that this wasn't for me. Like I really felt like, okay, I'm here. It's taken me a long time to get around to it, and I did 3 years of prerequisites before I even got to grad school, so 9
Yeah.
years here, but I felt like this is this fits. But I hadn't really done any kind of deep work on myself. It was I through my career, I was about giving and really giving. And I think because I didn't have a lot inside, that depleted me, and I didn't have awesome boundaries. I would
Boundary.
do way overdo. "Oh, let me give you one more thing. Let me help you with one more thing." And that took its toll. But I felt like, "Okay, this is it. This is good. This is my career." Yeah.
And so here you are, in the occupational therapist, you guys get to see so much with the human body, the mind, what the mind and how the mind plays in achieving the outcome desired and taking that body and molding it. And it all starts here. And you're actually on the front line watching this thing with all those different clients that you're seeing, and you're getting a chance to drink up the history, the stories of these men and women that you're dealing with. And since you are a giver, people pleasing, we all do this without any boundaries
Yeah.
because you're a perfectionist. You gotta hit those bars. And here you are just pouring all of your substance into you. And now this is going to lead because it's gonna life happens. As you said, it was in your 50s when the sickness broke down. We were getting back there. As you're watching all of this, partaking of all this knowledge and watching the people move, and you began to notice the little things within your body and your disconnect. But again, we don't pay attention to those red flags. Talk to me as those things began to manifest in you. What did it manifest as? And what did you do to cast them away?
It started to manifest as injuries, chronic injuries that would just pop up out of the blue. I was racing my bike at the time, and I would go to acupuncture, PT, massage, and I would maybe modify my training program, but I would keep going. So I would just I would do my workouts, and your workouts, everybody feels like you're on the ground, like practically retching after your effort. So you're in the pain cave. I'm used to being in pain, but I always felt like, gosh, I have such a exaggerated response. My husband, we had the same coach, and and granted he's a guy and he's a lot stronger than me, but I just felt like, I feel like I'm just digging a bigger hole, and it's beyond just the workout. And then I started to get chronic illnesses. So it was always the same. It was like I was swallowing barbed wire. I had just terrible viral symptoms where my body just ached. I felt so fatigued for weeks, and that would kind of keep recurring. I had a lot of gut issues, and I would go to doctors and kind of try things, and they'd work a little bit, but I just started to have to pare down my life, and I was working several jobs too. So I stopped racing my bike, I stopped riding my bike, I cut my work in half, and I was still not doing great. And then I had the stressor in 2016. I lost my dog to cancer, and 2 months later I lost my sister to suicide. I got married at 47, 6 weeks after that. And then a year later my mom had bone cancer, and I moved in with my parents in California for 3 months to help with everything and get her on hospice. So all those stressors in 2016 were like a lit match to all the infections that my body was trying to deal with.
Hmm.
And I knew, I had messages in my head, you have the power inside of you to heal. And I thought, okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to find that. I had
Yeah.
messages to slow down. I had people tell me to slow down. And until 2016, when it was like the universe said, "Hey, wake up, slow down. You're crazy. You're going to drive yourself into the ground." And I did. And that was kind of the stubbornness. Of course, that's what I needed, was
Yeah.
a hard stop. So I definitely see all the signals that I ignored, that I knew that I ignored, but
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going anyway, and I don't know what I was thinking. But and I
We
had
were all
seen
like
it in
that.
patients too, it's like,
Yeah, we were all like that.
yeah, you keep going until you can't. And my dad laughs. He's like, "Oh, I hit the wall. I keep going, we go till we drop." But it was really that which forced me into that stillness and continuous. And then I had car accidents and brain injuries. And so it was just this downward kind of spiral after
Yeah, I
that.
tell people that all the time. Life reminds me of this song that I totally love, one of my favorite songs ever. And Ave Maria is my favorite song ever. But Bolero is one of the most powerful things I've ever heard. And it reminded me of my life. And it is a classic picture of most of our lives. And we have those little drum, just and the red signs, the red flags, it's just, tapping away. And then one day, because we're not paying attention, as that song climbs, because we have to get our attention, we have to have a conversation. Ourselves, the inner man is dying for this conversation, and I think he helps design the crashing symbol, if you will, because that day will come when you will
Mhm.
hear, as in Bolero, that shing, and all hell breaks loose, and next thing you know, you're on the floor and you're in a corner wanting to know how did you get there, but you knew how you got there because you've been denying those red flags for the longest time. You talk yourself into it because we've been programmed. We go until, and then after until we go until. That's one of the programs that the older generation before us passed down to us, and so
Yeah.
we carry that with us because they got it from the other generation. And so we walk with all of these things that are detrimental to our being until that day happens. As you said, the world came crashing, and car accident, everything, all the stressors comes in. But you're an athlete and you're an occupational therapist, and you've seen the process of the mind, the power of the mind. When you were in yours, your dark night of the soul, how did you begin to use your mind began to, because that's where you start taking their first steps. What did that look like, Heidi, when you are
Yeah.
now, everything's gone dark and you got to find a way out? What did you do?
Yeah, I created anchors and I journaled every day. I started meditating, and I've always loved movement. So what movement I could do, I just practiced this presence, this mindfulness that was completely new to me, and breath work. I had done a lot of the things that I taught people, like the neuroplasticity, brain retraining.
Mm-hmm.
I taught a lot of nervous system modulation, somatics, tapping. So those things, but the missing piece in all of it was that piece of me. So
Me. Yeah.
really, it was a daily committal, sometimes an hourly committal, to
Mm-hmm.
believe in me, to believe in my ability to heal, to explore that tiny whisper of "you have the power to heal" inside of you. I love
Yes.
learning, so I dove into the research. I read as much about the biology of belief, and
Mm-hmm.
how what we think about affects our cells, affects everything. What we believe. So I kind of, and then I looked at, I intention, attention, gratitude. I did an intention masterclass, and I just started on this evolution really of, okay, every day I have these rituals and I'm hyper aware of what I'm thinking about. And when I notice that it doesn't serve me, I'm going to acknowledge it and then I'm going to replace it with something that does serve me. And it was and it is still, this is a journey that's never going to end, but if it's this good now, I can only imagine what it'll be in a year, in 5 years. But it's been this I crave solitude. You were talking about solitude, and
Yeah.
that's quiet. I wanna be out in nature. I don't want headphones in and listening to stimulation. I don't we don't have a TV. It's this going inward that's just really interesting and fascinating, and what is my spirit telling me today? And sometimes I journal s through, spirit come through and
Mhm.
and help me figure out this direction. So I have this faith in uncertainty, and that the things that are meant for me are going to be presented to me in some way. I have to take action with what I want in
Yes.
my life. But
Yeah.
if something doesn't work out, okay, it wasn't meant for me at this time.
Mhm.
Let it go. And it's tremendously freeing to kind of allow that detachment and knowing that I'm so solid in who I am and my message. And what you said at the beginning, we're all here for a purpose. And I've never felt like that in to this degree in my life with my career. I felt very depleted and burned out, and with changes in healthcare, I didn't wanna do that anymore, and this feels like, "Wow, this is why I'm here at this time," and every time I have anxiety about what's happening in the world, it's really calming to say, "But Heidi, you're meant to be here right now, and you
Mhm.
have the strength and you have the backing of all the things that you cannot see." To help you get through this and to lead others who want to find themselves too. So it's this beautiful relationship that I cultivate with the things I think about, the actions, and how I take care of my body. I'm very I eat very clean. I don't listen to negative things, the news, whatever. So I'm real careful to really keep that, that vibration high, and yeah, letting go of a lot. It's something that it's like a living, breathing organism, this belief in me
Yes.
and this connection, and that means it takes cultivation every day and
Yes.
mindfulness. So that's kind of been my journey, and that gave me the courage to question the stories that narrated my life and the beliefs that underlie them and change them. Rewrite
Yeah.
them, you know,
We
live
we have the
the
power to
new
rewrite
the
them.
new narrative. Oh, we have so
Yeah.
much power, and
Yeah.
we've led to believe that we have to outsource it,
We don't.
and
Yeah.
we give it away. We
Mhm.
give and our attention, what we pay attention to is so important, and we recklessly give it away to
Yeah,
things that make
we
us feel and yeah.
yeah. The Bible says this. Jesus made this statement. He says, "All things are possible to him who believes." And so I put it this way: all things are possible to the believing man. The body was designed, the house that we live in was designed to heal itself. We know this because we all see it
Yep.
and we
Yeah.
are aware of it as a child coming up into we are aware of it. The limitation comes because we put our faith and our belief in hospitals and doctors that these guys don't know anything, half of them, because I came out of there. And I remember seeing those guys running to books, going to Google, trying to figure out what a disease is when these people show up. So I'm telling you, I know,
Yeah.
I've seen that. So if all things are possible to him who believes, then the responsibility is on that individual to go get the data that is out there. There's tons of data out there to go get the data to gain
Mhm.
knowledge that will
Mhm.
now cause you to believe, because the other principle is we believe and therefore we speak. So I tell people God is a great, I love Genesis. I love the first couple of verses in Genesis because I'm looking at, I grew up in the church. I grew up looking at this creator creating, and then he tells me I have the same power to do that. And so
Mhm.
if he's speaking from a place of belief, let there be, then I am capable because it tells me that he made me in his image and his likeness. So I'm capable of that.
Mhm.
And Heidi
Mhm.
was. She went, she began to change her belief on her about healing. She went and got the data, looked at it, bring it into her space, which now will cause her belief to begin to change on what she sees and experiences in her body. And then she's going to start talking about it. She's going to start telling, I'm good. Gratitude, thankful for my healing, all of these different things because we believe. And because we believe, therefore we speak. We command, we release that energy. And so I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I've been listening to these guys for many years. And there's so much study out there about people gaining their healing from meditation and utilizing visualization and all these different tools that have been given to us to use. It is up to you to go get it. And I can prove to you that the mind heals people. They are called placebo effects. It is data, is documented data that the placebo effect is people getting nothing and healing themselves in cancer, all kinds of chronic diseases. There's documentation there. But the pharmaceutical and all the other entities out there would not do any major study on that because it would make them lose all the money. But that
Yeah.
amount of people is the same amount as in some cases, Heidi, the ones that on their placebo got the same result, even more so than those that were on the drugs with no side effects. It is proven. I have data that shows that, but they will never tell anyone. But here Heidi went out on her own, and this you have to become an advocate for yourself, for your family member. Go get data, bring it to them. What are you doing with the data to help you change your belief? And when you change your belief, you'll change everything. So Heidi, here you are. You began to change your belief. And it is I don't want to say a battle, but it is a hypersensitive life. We call that living in the present, in the presence. That's what we call it. But you have to be hyper vigilant as to what thoughts come into your head, because this is where the battle is. And your mind, if all things are possible, then all things are possible. To the believing man, you got to change your belief and you'll change your situation. Talk to me as you begin to do that and become a warrior to protect, guard your mind, what you put in, the meditation, powerful tools, journaling, powerful tools. The Bible says write down the vision, write down what you want, because as you clarify these things, these are tools to help you to become you, healed, powerful
Mhm.
individual. Talk about that, Heidi, as to your approach. You said, you told them your approach and how important it is for them to become aware of their thoughts, began to put all those tools that you utilize together in a format to get them their healing.
Yeah, I think the first thing is awareness, and we're so conditioned to live on autopilot and live out the habits that we've been living out last week, last year. And it wasn't until I woke up to that day when I came to the realization that I was believing I wasn't going to heal that I thought, oh my gosh, wow, okay. So I've been sleepwalking through life with living out these automatic patterns. And until you're really aware of what you believe, you can't change anything. You have to wake up to what you're believing. And you talked about the placebo effect. The nocebo effect is just as strong. And
Just as
that's
strong.
what I was believing, was that I
Yes.
was going to get worse. And that's what was happening. And being aware of what you're thinking, there's a Edith Eger wrote a book called The Choice. Do you know Edith Eger?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, amazing. And she said, the biggest prison is in your mind, and in your pocket, you already hold the key. And that summed up the mental prison that I had created on top of the physical prison I was already in because of my illnesses. And so to dismantle that prison was about catching the thought in that moment. Every time my fear would tell me I wouldn't get better, I'd replace it with belief that I would get better. And these old stories and old beliefs are so deeply grooved. They're like Grand Canyons in our brain.
Mm.
And through so many repetitions of a different belief, we begin to restructure our brain. So that awareness, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. There's no way you can control all those thoughts, but it's just the ones that you're aware of that change the way you feel. That is a great place to start and to also be really proactive. I have a whole gratitude thing that I practice. I get outside first thing in the morning with my dog, and I'm just everything. I'm grateful for everything. And minutes of that, and it just feels so good, and it's not this kinda glossing over positivity thing. It's actually when you marinate in that, "I'm here. Look at how amazing my body is. Look at what
Yeah.
she did last night while I slept. She was repairing, restoring, digesting, doing all these amazing, amazing things." And to get in that mindset of just abundance. You talked about time at the beginning. So often in my old me, I would wake up with a feeling of scarcity of time every day. And I would wake up when I was sick and a scarcity of health. And now it's, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful day. I
Hmm.
love today. So it's catching yourself when you kind of revert back or you notice these old habits, these old patterns that are trying to, stake their ground, and then it's making that switch into something that's believable. And with the things that are, I do believe all things are possible. Any there If there's a 1% possibility, then that's a possibility. Even if it's 99% unlikely. But I think that's the 1% I want to sign up for. I wanna put my energy into that all possibility, and when the negative or doubt creep in, they're there, and that's good. It helps me to reaffirm my belief. So I think it's unrealistic that we'll never have anxiety, we'll never have doubt, we'll never have fear. I
Yeah.
think they're all important, and they help us to learn, "Hey, here's an opportunity to commit even more
Yeah.
in me."
I
And I
agree.
never set out to create anything, but I felt more joy, more clarity, more purpose than I ever have. And I'm still healing. I mean, there's a lot there. And I do have a doctor. It's not instead of,
Yeah.
but it's so
In
much more
conjunction with.
about, yeah, and it's about how I nourish myself with my
Hmm.
thoughts, with my
Yep.
feelings, with my emotions, with my beliefs and my stories. And that to me is the greatest medicine that you can give
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Uh, go and find data. Your body heals. It has the And I mean, look at the science of it. The skin regenerates, everything. I mean, come on, guys. Just go out
Yeah.
there. What you may need is to go and find yourself a good herbalist. Get some other, build a good team because a lot of the healing herbs are out there and the knowledge is there, and you may need to bring some of those into your body to assist it to strengthen it where it's weak. Things like that. Become creative. Open your world.
Mhm.
Go for it, man, because this is your life and your health. Heidi, I want you to do me a favor, pick, because here's this woman that has gone through so much. I mean, wow. And we didn't even go into the accident and all the different things because you got to come out of there, the darkness, the depressions, the all the wonderful things that you experience and all of that, your sister, the family situation, your pet. I mean, just one thing after the other, your body, all of it all. And you're honored to be ushered into this arena where you're now serving. You're able to serve others. Talk to us about one of those precious, because I tell people this is one of the most precious things that a servant gets to witness while they're there, and only a servant sees it, is that birth of an individual, Heidi, that has been captured by their perception for so many years. You know, we were in that group. And from a conversation, that perception began to move. And then one day it lands, and the principle is, and you shall know the truth, and the truth is going to set you free. Whatever that truth is concerning. And it's usually based on some of those traumas that we had suffered as a young individual. Talk to me about one of those precious moments that you were privileged to be a part of, one that comes to your mind when you had an opportunity to sit down with someone that was having a tough time. And from your conversation, over time, sometimes it's instantaneously, but they're able to move and have an opportunity to become. Talk to me about one of those.
I think so a person who has gone through just unbelievable trauma, that has struggled her whole life with it and some mental illness on top of that, and just really feeling at times suicidal and worthless, and I just see this beautiful creator, but it's so hard for her to see that. And so in her process, seeing her be able to give love and kindness and compassion and understanding to herself, and to put herself first, like for the first time, and to say no to people,
Yeah.
and to be able to live with their discontent with that. Because if you're a people pleaser and you start saying no, the people you were pleasing are not very happy about that.
Yeah.
So I think just seeing the lightening up of just her person, and seeing that light kind of coming through by giving herself what she gave to so many people, and being able to see she's worthy of that after all that she's been through. That person is just really stands out to me, because just that stepping into this
Yeah.
person she doesn't know, and being able to really cultivate it. And it's, again, it's dynamic, we're up and down and up and down,
Yeah.
but if you've gotten
Life.
there once,
Yes.
twice, you can get back there.
Oh, yeah.
And so it takes a reminder of, you know, hey, how would you treat a friend? Turn that inward. Thanks for the reminder, you're right.
Yeah.
And every time I feel so much better, I feel so much lighter
Yeah.
when she does that. Yeah,
That is awesome. That's a beautiful story, Heidi.
yeah.
And all guys, we're going to provide all of Heidi's links and so forth so you can get access to her, because this has been a beautiful conversation and a beautiful soul that has gone through much and has much to offer to you. And I want you guys to get into her space, become aware of what she is. She's a coach. She speaks. She's a speaker, but she has some other insights that are there for you, wellness coaching, all the different things about the body, the mind, all of it. And she will be able to help you to navigate your world to bring you into that space so you can become, if you will, become what you want to become. So we're going to make sure that you have access to her. Heidi, I want to ask you this last question before we close up this. I've had you for about an hour and change now. You have a mic. This mic is plugged into the 8+ billion of us on this planet. What would you say to us?
How many words do I have, Ken? No.
It's all up to you. It's just time, girl. It's just time.
That the healing starts with us and the connection with ourselves and acceptance and love. And I believe that can heal the world, but it starts with us.
I'm going to leave it there, guys.
Yeah.
Heidi, thank you so much for coming and being vulnerable before us and allowing us the opportunity to see you and to be a part of your world, your insight, your triumph, all of it. We thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
It is an honor.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.